Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user NoThanksNo. My 25 female mom, 67, is dying. My sister, 35 female, is dependent on her in every possible way. Other sister, 37 female, and brother-in-law, 39 male, are now talking about how we will all have to take over for mom and take care of our sister. I do not want to do this. I will try to be brief. My sister Jen, 35 female, has been frankly a mess for her whole life. She has gotten exponentially worse since age 18 and literally expects the whole world to revolve around her and cater to her. Unfortunately, it often does, and that's because my mom constantly gave in to her demands. She is also very demanding of my other sister Paula, 37, and me. Mostly she consumes our time, but also Paula's money. Jen will whine about how she feels so bad about owing Paula and my mom so much money, but apparently she doesn't feel that bad because she hasn't had a job since she was 19. She claims she sends in applications all the time, but that it's just really hard to get a job right now. She could work somewhere, but she won't apply for anything less than $15 an hour despite having no skills. Other things to note: aside from being financially and emotionally dependent, she also can't, or won't, do any regular tasks for herself. She won't go to the grocery store alone, she has no car. She won't do her own laundry, she won't cook, and is very overweight because she just eats junk or orders out. So far this year, my mom has spent over $20,000 paying for Jen's rent. She lives in an expensive one-bedroom in our city because she refused to look at low-income housing, and guess what? My mom allowed her to choose the apartment. My mom has almost no money to her name. Every cent from retirement and pension went to my sister. Those are the basics. Now, of course, this is complicated by the fact that she is not well mentally. She has depression and anxiety and some severe paranoia. Constantly, she's positive people are making fun of her, etc., which contributes to her fear of working. And many doctors have suggested she might have bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder. I understand that she is suffering and in a kind of pain that none of us could fathom, but my pity is just gone. I feel like she could do something, anything, but just won't. Even getting her to a therapist was exhausting, and it hasn't really worked at all. She's been in therapy with one of the top doctors in our area, but she isn't completely honest with him, and even he recently told her that if she doesn't do something, there is no point in her seeing him anymore. So we're at a loss, but frankly, I'm done. I'm upset with everything, and even though it is killing me to watch my mom fade, somewhere inside I have to admit I'm also angry that she let this happen. I know she couldn't control my sister completely, but I just wish she hadn't just kept giving and giving and giving and creating this unhealthy dynamic. So now we're at a crossroads. Paula has been crying to me lately about how terrified and angry she is that now we have to take care of Jen. Financially, emotionally, basic needs, whatever. I went to her house last night and we sat down with her husband and her oldest child, 15 male, to talk about things. She has seemed to just accept her fate and just depressingly acknowledges how now she has to keep up paying Jen's rent and etc. Now she and her husband have asked me to contribute in any way I can because they have 2 kids who will eventually go to college, and it isn't fair for them to miss out on things because of their unwell aunt. I agree, but I can't do this. I barely talk to Jen anymore and only see her at family events because she's so exhausting, and I refuse to cater to her ridiculousness. I tried for so long and it did nothing, and now I can see how deeply stuck she truly is. I don't want to be dragged in. I think it's so sad that Paula is convinced she has to take care of our sister. I don't know how to explain to her that we can say no. My mom was never able to, but we can. Unfortunately, I am seeing that Paula won't accept that, and she feels that as the oldest she is required to do this. I know it's unlikely I can't convince her otherwise, but how can I explain I can't help them continue this pattern of dependency or codependency? I guess maybe I sound cold, but honestly, I just feel so numb. My mom deteriorated so much over the years, and honestly, I blame Jen for a lot of that, causing her so much stress and pain. And I think Jen has had too many years and too many chances to change. I give up. As bad as that sounds, I really give up. Thank you guys for any advice you can offer. OP, you're in a tough situation. I totally understand what you're saying, and I absolutely agree with you. Your sister Jen is not either Paula or yours responsibility. And in this case, I do believe that it is your mom's fault that Jen is like this. Not depressed and, with her illnesses, of course not, but the fact that she's so cozy, being catered to and being enabled. There are so many people in this world that have either the same problems as Jen or even some that are worse, but they still have the will to get out there, do the work and try to get better, be it with medication or be it with just therapy, but they are trying. That's commendable. Now, the way you see it, you have two options. You either help or you bail out. But maybe there is one in the middle, where you guys talk to Jen and say that you will help her as long as you see her doing the work. Kinda like Jerry Maguire, help me help you. I mean, it's quite telling that the therapist said, hey, you don't need to come over here anymore if you're not willing to do the work. And put a timer on it. If she doesn't do the work, then you're absolutely out. But of course, you don't have to do any of this and just say that you won't help. And what do you guys think, or what would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. The Babes too says, no disrespect to your mother, but she created this mess. I've seen this on my own family. My uncle, who is somewhere in his 50s, is much like your sister, and guess what? After my grandma died, the family just picked up where she left off. It's exhausting, and finally, after a few years of total nonsense, my dad has said, done, and is putting a timeline in place for my uncle to get out on his own and be an adult. Your sister may not be mentally well, but I note that she is not medically disabled. She has the capacity to care for herself, but she chooses not to, because much like my uncle, she doesn't have to, until now. You know what's coming, and I say you put your foot down now. Tell your other siblings no. If you and your other siblings want to be kind, you can let her know up front and start planning for the day mom is gone. But I wouldn't for a second consider being mom 2.0 to her. She needs to get off her ass and live life. Ask your siblings, do they want to be burdened with this for another 40 years? Because that is exactly what they are signing up for if they take her on. And Dopey responds, thank you, I totally agree, and that's really good that your dad is putting his foot down. I think I am ready to do that. If anything, I feel stronger because of how angry I am. Not sure if that's good or bad. It's helping at least with the feelings of guilt over giving up on my sister. It just really breaks my heart that Paula can't do the same. She is going to drag her kids into this situation, and I feel awful that my nephew especially will have to deal with the after effects. But I guess there's nothing I can do there. I have a private mini fund started for him and his sister, but still, it sucks to see his parents unintentionally prioritizing their aunt over him. And Dave T says, quote, Paula has been crying to me lately about how terrified and angry she is that now we have to take care of Jen. End quote. In the discussion you had with Paula, did you ask her why she thought you and she have to take care of Jen? Did you express your opinion that the two of you do not, in fact, have to take care of Jen? And Dopey responds, oh yes. Unfortunately, maybe because of the fact that she's dealing with so much right now, I don't think she's in the mindset to grasp that in a rational way. She seems to be convinced that she has the power to change Jen. If I can move her closer to me, I can take her to the gym with me, help her get a job. It's not possible. Hell, Jen lived with her for 3 years, and guess what? She never worked out and never got a job. I don't know why Paula still has this strange hope. I think she's in denial about losing Jen and just thinks she can't fix her. When I did say, well, you don't have to sign her lease or pay for her, that's your choice. She got really loud and defensive and said that I didn't understand. When I said this would just be repeating what mom has done for years, because Paula is very vocal about my mom's decisions being so poor, etc. She rejected that and said no, she won't be doing all of what our mom did. Goober-faced says, quote, frankly, I'm done, end quote. Say this, don't feel the need to justify or explain or continue the conversation in any way. Just say that they need to leave you out of their plans to help her out as you are unable to contribute in any way. Stick to your guns. It will cause a rift, but if it means this much to you, then it might be worth it to you. Only you can decide. And Dopey responds, thank you, I hate that it will cause a rift, and honestly that's the hardest thing I'm looking at right now. I don't want to lose them, but I also don't want to carry this whole mess forever and ever. It also sucks knowing that Jen will make me out to be the enemy, but I suppose I shouldn't let that get to me as much as I can. Additional information from OP's comments. I really think that guilt is fueling all this. It motivated a lot of poor decisions on my part years back, subjecting myself to mistreatment out of fear of abandoning Jen. It absolutely directed all my mom's choices. The unfortunate thing is Paula really believes that since Jen is being unwilling, Paula somehow has the power to change that and make her willing. But she doesn't. No one does. Not even the trained professional who my mom paid $300 a session for Jen to see could do it. I think my brother-in-law tends to just submit to whatever Paula says. Many years ago, he would intervene or offer an opinion, but when she started shutting him down, he kinda shied away from that. I know he doesn't want to carry this at all. He texts me ranting very often, but at the end of that, he still seems to accept his fate, or what he considers it. Even before my mom got sick, he was saying, "What's going to happen when she passes? We're going to have to take the role, but it would really be worth it to try to talk to him and maybe my nephew." Jen thinks it's on us to be there for her, etc. She doesn't comprehend people living their own lives. Maybe that's part of why she won't live her own. She has like a why bother attitude. At one point when she was younger and we were all living with my mom, it became, why should I brush my own hair if mom can? Now, she does like to voice out and acknowledge that she's an adult and shouldn't rely on her mom, but still, her attitude is like, too bad, because moms always have to take care of their kids no matter how old they are. However, in recent years, that has shifted to family has to help each other out no matter what. For me, there is a limit. She will never understand that, but I'm so done trying to make her. Okay, well, community advice really resonated with OP, so now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hi everyone, I have an update that I wanted to share since you all helped me so immensely the last time I posted. Please, let me start by saying thank you from the bottom of my heart. I was in a really dark and numb place, and you all really helped give me some clarity when I desperately needed it. So, the basics. My mom is actually doing okay right now. The prognosis was much worse before in that they were saying she could go as quickly as 3 months. But just a couple of days after my first post, she was able to do more on her own. Keep down food, get out of bed, and interact much more normally than before. They are saying that if she continues to show consistency like this, it could be a lot longer than we first thought. Regardless, it is a long road ahead and we will just have to see what happens. Paula has somewhat come to her senses on this whole matter. She and her husband invited me over and she apologized profusely for guilt-tripping me and for expecting that I would share responsibility just out of obligation. She said she was not coping well with our mom's condition and was feeling desperate and frankly terrified, so she was being a bit irrational. I asked her why she felt obligated to strap herself and her family to Jen, and she couldn't really answer beyond saying that she does feel responsible for her well-being as she does for me, her kids, etc. And she doesn't think she could cope with knowingly letting Jen suffer. All I could do was assure her that that's not her cross to bear and that she should consider seeing a counselor to talk it through and get some perspective. Paula also said she literally cannot support Jen financially in the long term, as our mother has to an extreme, and she wanted to look into other options for Jen. She explained that she knew she could not put her family second to take care of Jen, so the first thing we did was reach out to Jen's therapist. Thank you to all those who suggested it, and we had a family session today. It went as I expected, I guess. Paula and I went with Jen there. Honestly, I was shaking before I got there because I have been deliberately pulling away from Jen for the last few years and I know she is livid and hurt. I knew Jen would lash out and she certainly did, but it was good in that the therapist, who is one of the best in our area for personality disorders, anxiety, etc., explained that he couldn't help her if she didn't try something, and he actually would not recommend that Paula and I support Jen forever if she refused to do something. He asked if Jen would consider accepting a job at, say, McDonald's, and she said flat out, no. When he asked why, she just kept repeating, I just don't want to be around people. And he said, okay, but if your sister said she wouldn't support you if you didn't accept it, would you? She said, no, but they shouldn't just cut me off like that, that's effed up. He said that she blamed our family a lot, absolutely makes sense. And when Jen said, but they're family, they should be there. He set it up like this. Imagine you were supporting your sisters, financially, emotionally, physically, whatever. And someone came up and offered your sisters a job at McDonald's, and they said no. How would you react? She said she would be annoyed, but she wouldn't just abandon us. So there wasn't much wiggle room there. I wished he'd explained that it's not abandonment and that we can't drag ourselves down if she won't do the smallest of things. But I'm not a therapist. I was really relieved to have him there because she then jumped to saying how only mom has been there for me, you haven't at all, to me. And I explained as best as I could that we all needed to be healthy, happy, and functioning to have healthy relationships. That it's not me not being there, but I need to support from a distance because it affects me deeply. And in fact, when I was there all the time, it didn't help Jen at all. I said that this had been going on for years, and being tightly wrapped up in each other was actually damaging and not helping her at all. He backed me up on that and asked her why she thought that her family should do all this for her. She just kept repeating, because we're family and I would do it for them and I've always been there for them. So yeah, not really budging on that. She also went off about how I've changed since I went to college and blamed my boyfriend for that a lot. She said, "How lucky you are not to have to give an F. It's easier to be distant." She was extremely angry but crying at this point, which was hard to see. I tried as much as I could not to argue at all, but to say, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but I disagree," and refocus us to talking about what the heck we are going to do next. The therapist also tried to do the same, focusing on how Jen needs to move beyond these familial expectations and start to do something for herself. He told her it was going to be extremely hard for her to find a job and it will be a lot of work. She acknowledged she needed to, but then he again asked if she'd now consider accepting a job at McDonald's, and she again said no and that she couldn't explain why. It was so hard to hear this because I just felt like we kept hitting walls. Paula even brought up how she couldn't afford this financially and that when Jen lived with her for over a year, nothing changed. Jen immediately shot back, "Well, that was because it was toxic in your house." The therapist asked how she contributed to that toxicity, and she said she just didn't like Paula's husband. That was more or less the situation. I left feeling really mixed up, but at least relieved that I tried something. Jen also thanked me for coming, but not before talking to me outside very bitterly about how I've hurt her so much, not being there for her. Repeats of the same stuff in the session. She said I used to be very family-oriented when I was a child through 18, I guess, and I've changed so much, and not all families are close, but ours is, and we should always help each other. I explained I needed to take care of myself, and I've been trying to do that, get healthier, because I have not been doing well mentally or emotionally, and that I wanted her to do the same. She was somewhat receptive actually and understanding, but didn't move away from her position that we always shared the same definition of family until I went to college. She said, "I was always there for you and then you didn't need me anymore and you met your boyfriend." I said, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but that isn't how I feel at all. But we can't all set each other on fire to keep each other warm. Thanks guys." And that us being there was actually hurting each other's growth so much. She agreed, but again said, "But you're not some stranger off the street, you're my sister." Anyway, that seemed to somewhat make sense to her, I guess. I realized though that I will never change that line of thinking, and she will always believe that Paula and me, especially, are extremely selfish. Fortunately, after that, she seemed to relax a bit and agreed she needed to wake up and do something. She said she wished something could wake her up, like if she was about to get hit by a train and realized, "Crap, I need to move." All I could think was that her wake up would be us cutting her off, but the therapist said he wouldn't recommend that. However, he also thinks Paula needs to put a limitation on how long she will help and set a firm line. Jen needs to put in the effort to get a social worker, begin a program that helps adults find jobs, and apply for disability. Her type of insurance is awful in this state, which complicates things, but she claims she will do the research. So, I really don't know. Honestly, I don't have much hope. I just don't. There are so many issues that it just seems unsurmountable. I don't expect any change because she hasn't hit any kind of rock bottom. She claimed that me explaining that I would continue to keep her at a distance, her words, not mine, but whatever, made her want to change. But I really don't believe that. I love her and I always will, but I just don't see that. For me, I just plan on continuing to stay out of this. I hate that she thinks it doesn't affect me, but I have to let that go. The hardest thing for me is all this guilt I feel. For years, we were all living under the notion that if you did something and it hurt someone else's feelings, you are responsible for those person's feelings. And now I'm trying to convince myself that's not true and I'm struggling. I saw plain as day and knew always that me pushing her away is hurting her immensely. If I am aware of that and I still do it, shouldn't that mean I should be responsible for how she feels? This is where I get stuck. If a kid hurts his friend's feelings, you'd say, you should apologize because he's responsible for it. I'm stuck at how I'm absolved of this. I'm stuck because all I can hear is her telling me I've been selfish and knowing that she's right, even if it's for my health. I guess going forward, I am hoping that Jen does as she says she will and looks into the programs her therapist suggested. I am hoping she gets on any track at all, but that's all I can really do, is hope, and offer to help her if she takes those first steps. It effing sucks feeling so helpless about it, but I just can't let myself dive back in. Ugh. I plan on continuing to talk to Paula and support her as much as I can. Hopefully, convince her to come to therapy sessions with me and see that neither of us has to carry this guilt forever. Thank you all again so much. Well, OP, for me the takeaway is that you guys tried. You tried to get her to understand that what she's doing is not healthy for her or for anyone. But at the end of the day, you can't try to help someone who doesn't want the help. She claims she wants you to be there for her, but I guess that means just paying for her to not do anything about herself, and that's not fair. Unfortunately, the guilt is something that you are going to have to work through, but you should really internalize or at least rationalize that, again, you can't help somebody who doesn't want the help, and then it's not on you anymore and you shouldn't feel guilty. Either way, OP, I hope you and Paula get there, and I do hope that Jen tries to get her life on track and gets the real help that she needs. All the best to all of you, and thank you for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.